Alright, for tonight I'm gonna be talking about ancient fanboys. Now, let's get into it. Number one, the most famous example for an ancient fanboy is obviously Sporus, aka the slave of Emperor Nero. And I'm pretty sure you've seen a lot of in-depth analysis about that character, about that person. So, we're gonna skip that. Alright, now let's get into the lesser known ones in history. So, as you can see, it's very dark out here. I am 100% sure someone is watching me. Anyway, so around in 16th century, I believe, as I remember, around in Roman times, around Roman era, there was a group of kind of like called as Galli, which is basically a group of young men who would do a bunch of, you know, your typical run of the mill pagan rituals. They would self-castrate themselves and then overall just present themselves in a feminine manner with all the extravagant jewelries, and then just overall basically a femboy in ancient times, in ancient Rome. And also another example in the festival of Osteophoria. Osteophoria, I believe. Osteophoria, it is a festival where young wealthy men would dress up in feminine clothing and just straight up basically another example of ancient femboy. And also, alright, I'm seeing things here anyway. And also, alright, so where was I? So now that we're done explaining Osteophoria, and by the way, all the things that I'm saying, you can easily Google this on the Google, and correct me if I'm wrong down in the comments down below. And also now, let's get into the third one. Hijra and Inuit. Well, mostly Hijra. Somewhere in India, back in the day, another 16th century or 17th century, a bunch of Indians that are basically categorized as third gender, a lot of them would, again, as always, they would self-castrate themselves and then act like a guard for the harem somewhere in the royal class in India. Also, this Hijra, I believe I'm pronouncing that wrong, this Hijra would also dress in a feminine manner, feminine attire, and then just like what any other I said, basically another ancient femboy. And also down to the last bit, somewhere in Southeast Asia, there's also plenty of reports and accounts of, I don't really know how to pronounce this right, but I believe it's pronounced as Asog-Babaylan. Those are Asog-Babaylan. These Asog-Babaylan are mostly females, but there are also accounts reported that there are also plenty of Asog-Babaylan that are Asog-Babaylan are basically like folk healer, ancient folk healer, and basically a bunch of witchcraft shaman, you may say, or priestess, you may say, and plenty of other things. And what's the most surprising thing about Asog-Babaylan is that they're very traditional, very conservative. Obviously it's like pre-colonial era anyway. So these Asog-Babaylan are actually quite traditional, just like what I said. So since that these Asog-Babaylan are now presenting themselves and portraying themselves as in the feminine side. In the feminine side, they are now basically, they become a full-time, they literally become a full-time femboy housewife. I mean, that's not really, but you get the point. Right. Gosh damn, it's cold here. Anyway, so where was I? So Asa Babai land. These Asa Babai land are pretty traditional, just like what I said, I believe. Yeah. Alright, typical Thailand always has crimes nighttime. Anyway, so I'm gonna be explaining this in a. So you might be wondering, what is the point of making this video anyway? You might be seeing this as another inspiring, empowering LGBTQ type of stuff. But you're wrong. I ain't promoting or encouraging you to be a fanboy or anything. I would just simply like to say that just because these things occurs in the past, it doesn't mean that it's already normal or natural. Remember, these people in the very early stages of humankind, they simply also still suffers from mental illness and the confusion and the not clarity of their identity. Exactly. I might be reaching here, but I'm pretty sure you're seeing what I'm trying to say, the patterns that I'm trying to say, and also that